This is WJZ-TV Baltimore, in your community, where you live. WJZ News at 11 starts right now.
Attack in Annapolis. A gunman opens fire at the Capital Gazette newspaper.
This person was prepared to shoot people.
The frightening moments, the suspect, and the unfolding investigation. Hello, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. 5 people are killed after a gunman opens fire with a shotgun inside the newsroom of the Capital Gazette. The terrifying moments unfolding this afternoon. Police say it was a targeted attack. Anne Arundel County Police have identified the victims. All are employees of the Gazette. They are editor Rob Hyacin, Wendy Winters, who covered local news as a writer at the Gazette. John McNamara worked at the paper for more than 20 years and was the editor of the Bowie Blade News and the Crofton West County Gazette. Rebecca Smith was a recent hire and a sales assistant at the Gazette. And Gerald Fishman wrote the Capital's editorials and edited the editorial page. The suspect is in custody tonight. CBS News identifies him as 38-year-old Jared Ramos. And we have a team of reporters covering this tragedy. WJZ investigator Mike Helgren live on the scene in Annapolis with what happened and what we know. Mike?
Mary, as we mourn those 5 lives lost, a clearer picture is emerging of the suspected shooter who targeted them because of a vendetta against the newspaper. Police took just 1 minute to respond to the terrifying attack at the offices of the Capital Gazette in Annapolis that killed 5 people. They were able to take the shooter into custody alive. Sources have identified him as 38-year-old Jared Ramos from Laurel, who filed a defamation suit against the newspaper 6 years ago that was dismissed.
This person was prepared today to come in. This person was prepared to shoot people. His intent was to cause harm, and as I stated before, the investigative part of this is going to be thorough, and it's going to take some time.
A Twitter account and website matching Ramos' name bashed the paper. Police say there were online threats against the Capital Gazette, but did not provide more details.
The threats were sent over social media. We're trying to confirm what account that was, and we're trying to confirm who actually sent them.
Ramos had a backpack with smoke grenades and a shotgun. He blasted the paper's door open as employees hid under their desks.
He was going down our newsroom, starting from the front, and just continually shooting people. At one point, I'm pretty sure I heard him reload.
I was working at my desk when I heard the shots, and it took a couple of them for me to realize what was happening. And I looked at Anthony, the intern, and I said, I'm getting out of here, and I grabbed my purse and I went to the back door, which I was only a couple steps away from. It was locked.
According to sources, the shooter mutilated the tips of his fingers and was not carrying identification, taking great pains to hide who he was.
I was breathing really loud, and I was trying not to, but I couldn't be quiet, and he never came to our side, but I did hear footsteps very closely.
A tragic day at one of America's oldest newspapers. Authorities were reportedly able to identify the shooter based on facial recognition technology. A former publisher says he was afraid that this shooter was going to come and shoot them. And this is something that people in this community are still struggling to get over right now. Live in Annapolis, Mike Helgren, WJZ.
Mike, thank you. Let's go to Kimberly Eaton. She's also live on the scene with more information for us. Kimberly?
And Mary, tonight we've heard from some of the Capital Gazette journalists over Twitter, one of them tweeting that this is a relatively small newsroom, about 20 people who work inside, and in covering this community, they become familiar, in some cases friendly, with city leaders here. So tonight, those same city leaders and police telling us they knew the victims, they knew the survivors, now the very same people at the center of this investigation.
Several shots have been fired. Possible shotgun. At least 10 shots heard.
An active shooter Inside the Capitol Gazette office, where Annapolis Mayor Gavin Buckley says the journalists at work Thursday afternoon became open targets.
And there's nowhere to hide.
Even in just the 60 seconds it took police to get through the glass doors, a calculated and accused killer took 5 lives.
They described to me how they stepped over bodies to go towards the scene and found him under a desk.
Shotgun tossed to the side as he heard the approaching footsteps of law enforcement. Officers who ran into danger not knowing what they would find.
No one knew if the guy had a shotgun or a machine gun or a grenade or anything like that. They didn't even think about that.
Backup followed to get the other 170 people in the building out.
When we came down the elevator, as soon as the doors opened, the cops swarmed the elevator.
Scary. I mean, you open up the door and there's guys with guns pointing at you.
Confusion, chaos, and so many questions as police and city leaders dig into the attack on their colleagues turned friends and now the victims of this investigation.
We speak with these men and women on a daily basis to get stories out that are important to the citizens of this county. So we're here, we're invested, we're going to get this investigation right.
And for that reason, police have given us information well into tonight, coming in sort of spurts, releasing whatever details they can, and also indicating at some points that this is personal. They tell us this is a paper they work with to get vital information out into the community. And as you heard the deputy chief of police say, for that reason and many others, they are going to get this investigation right. For now, reporting, I'm Kimberly Eaton.
We're personally affected, Kimberly. Thank you. Our team coverage continues right now with Rick Ritter live on more on what we're learning about the suspect. Rick?
Well, Mary, we are learning some chilling details about Jared Ramos. He actually filed a lawsuit against the paper back in 2012. Tonight, we spoke with a former employee who was mentioned in that lawsuit. He tells us, quote, "I remember saying back then, this is a guy who's going to come in and shoot us."
Hours after the heinous shooting in Annapolis, details surrounding the background of Jared Ramos are beginning to surface. The 38-year-old is pinned with opening fire on the Capitol Gazette newsroom, a paper Ramos had a long-running feud with.
I mean, this guy was a powder keg ready to go off because he just didn't get the satisfaction he was looking for from us.
That's the voice of Tom Marquardt, former editor for the Gazette. In 2012, Ramos filed a defamation suit against Marquardt, columnist Eric Hartley, and the paper over an article that accused Ramos of stalking a female. While the Gazette initially won the case, Marquardt says Ramos was irate and kept finding ways to keep the case alive for years.
He took action against the judges. He took action against attorneys. He took action against the newspapers.
Marquardt says he warned others that Ramos was capable of a gruesome act like Thursday's.
I am not surprised by this, unfortunately, and predicted back then that this was the kind of guy that could come in and shoot at us.
Social media posts Ramos put out over the years paint a picture of a man fueled by anger. One threat targeted the columnist mentioned in that lawsuit, saying Eric Hartley knows from experience, but doesn't appreciate how bad it can get. Journalist hell awaits. Another one said in part, "Too bad Capitol Gazette News can't do anything but expletive reporting." Later adding, "F you."
It's just terrible to think that it was actually somebody you knew who was capable of doing this who came in and targeted editors. That could have been, that should have been me and others who were there at the time when this all happened.
And Ramos made numerous threats on social media. His Twitter account had actually been silent for months. But then today, minutes before the shooting, he put out one message that said, quote, "F you, leave me alone." Mary?
Just so disturbing. Thank you so much. Abijoy Burnett is standing by live outside the suspect's home in Laurel. Abijoy?
Well, Mary, we have been here all evening, and just a few seconds ago, we started to hear some activity. We wanted to show you what's happening over our shoulders. We think there are units who are trying to break into this building somehow. Like I said, we've been here for several hours. It's been relatively quiet. And about 10 minutes ago, we saw a caravan of vehicles show up. Some of them seem to be from state police. One of them was an armored vehicle. And then we just saw them start to break into one of these buildings right here. Now, to backtrack a little little bit for you. The police chief here in Laurel, Richard McLaughlin, told me that an entire building had to be evacuated, and those residents are somewhere else right now as they search this particular apartment unit. And just moments ago, we saw that caravan roll up with additional crews who will be going into an apartment that is listed for the suspect, Jared Ramos, who allegedly went inside the Capitol Gazette earlier today and opened fire. So whatever they're able to get from this apartment building could be very vital for the investigation. If you look over there at the building, you see there are lights, and there are multiple units out here, including state police, including the ATF. Laurel Police is here, and folks came over from Anne Arundel County as well. How long will this situation go on here in Laurel? It's still uncertain. What I can tell you, for the residents who are able to go into their buildings, are being escorted in, and I heard an officer told someone who drove out that if they come back in tonight, they may not be able to access with their vehicle. Live tonight in Laurel, Avajoy Burnett for WJZ.
Avajoy, thank you. We saw them looking into a window, possibly worried that traps are set for police. Our live coverage continues. Devin Bartolotta is live at Anne Arundel County Medical Center, where 2 of the victims were taken. Devin?
That's right, Mary. While we know the names of the deceased by now, we still don't know the identities of 2 other people who were injured. They were taken here to Anne Arundel County Medical Center. One of those people has already been released tonight. The ripple effect of flying bullets at the Capitol Gazette Thursday is only starting to show. 5 people in total gunned down in their own workplace, now identified by police as Wendy Winters, Rebecca Smith, Gerald Fishman, John McNamara, and Rob Hyacinth.
There's been a terrible tragedy here in Anne Arundel County.
County Executive Steve Shue sent his thoughts and prayers to the shooting victims, some taken by helicopter in the aftermath, and 2 with minor injuries, not gunshot wounds, taken to nearby Anne Arundel Medical Center. Governor Larry Hogan later tweeting, quote, "The Capitol Gazette is my hometown paper, and I have the greatest respect for the fine journalists and all the men and women who work there."
Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families, and I want to thank the law enforcement professionals who responded.
Again, there's still 1 person being treated here at the medical center tonight. That person has superficial injuries. They were not shot. We are told they may be released later tonight. Back to you.
That would be good news, Devin. Thank you so much. Here is the latest on the shooting at the Capitol Gazette in Annapolis. Anne Arundel County police say 5 people are dead. They have been identified. All were employees at the Capitol Gazette. At least 2 people are injured. CBS News reports 38-year-old Jared Ramos is being questioned in connection with the shooting. Police say threats against the newspaper were made on social media prior to the shooting. And our coverage on the attack on the Capitol Gazette will continue. We'll be right back. And we continue to follow the developments tonight in Annapolis. Police say a gunman opened fire on employees inside the Capitol Gazette this afternoon. 5 people were killed, 2 others were injured. A suspect is in custody tonight. WJZ is live. Investigator Mike Halgren joins us with more insight into today's deadly attack. Mike?
Mary, police remain here on the scene of the shooting, and they will be here for some time. We expect another update in the morning. But these were frightening moments inside that building, inside the Capitol Gazette newsroom and other offices in the building. Terry Smith is a columnist at the paper, and he spoke about the chaos that happened there just after 2:30 this afternoon.
They said it was absolutely terrifying that he shot through the door, came in, continued shooting, reloaded. Absolutely terrifying. You can just imagine. In a completely open scene, this is on the first floor, the ground floor. There are glass windows all around the room. There is nothing except for a few half walls at the editor's offices on the left to impede a shooter.
This shooter had a vendetta against the paper. He was angry about a story they published, and he sued for defamation. The suit got dismissed. He kept harassing them. Once again, I want to read the names of the victims: Wendy Winters, Rebecca Smith, Rob Hyacinth, Gerald Fishman, and John McNamara, the 5 people who lost their lives here today. Live in Annapolis, Mike Halgren, WJZ.
And tributes will be pouring in for them. We are going to go back to Abijoy Burnett. She's live in Laurel outside the suspect's home, watching the activity there. Abijoy?
Well, Mary, this investigation has moved from Annapolis on over to Laurel, and a little bit earlier we saw a caravan of vehicles come in, and I want to paint a picture for you of what's happening right now. We see state troopers that are trying to somehow bust into one of these buildings here. We saw the troopers with guns, with their vests on. My photographer told me that he is able to see them with night vision goggles on, and they're trying to gain entry to this apartment so that they can continue with the investigation. As we told you earlier, this is the listed apartment for the suspect, Jared Ramos, and all evening long it had been relatively quiet. Some of these areas were cordoned off, but all of a sudden, right around 11 o'clock, the activity started to pick up, and we saw this caravan of vehicles come in, and now right around 11 o'clock, we saw that they started to try to gain entry to this apartment building. And it was brought to my attention, you know, in the past, we see where suspects can booby trap some of these buildings, knowing that officers and law enforcement will be trying to gain access to get to the bottom of an investigation. So this is why this is so important for them to take all the precautions necessary. This has now become a multi-jurisdictional investigation from state, local, and federal officials here. We'll send it back into you.
All right, Abijoy, good information. Thank you. And we'll be right back. We continue to follow the developing story in Annapolis, a deadly shooting at the Capital Gazette. Shortly after the victims of this tragedy were identified tonight, heartbroken friends took to social media to remember them. Tim Pratt writes, 2 years ago, Rob Hyacinth handed me a $50 gift card and a note of congratulations when my wife and I bought a house. Just a little something to get us started. I used the gift to start Hyacinth Gardens in my backyard and often sent him harvest photos. He loved it. R.I.P. old friend. Jay Henson, a former photojournalist of the Capital Gazette, posted, Rob Hyacinth, soft-spoken guy who wrote about Annapolis' many secret spots. Gerald Fishman, quiet with a dry sense of humor. Wendy Winters, who never met a story she couldn't write or photograph. And Johnny Mack, who envied me on my retirement, missing them. Chase Cook, a Capital Gazette reporter, writes, Gerald, Wendy, Rob, John, Rebecca. God, I can't comprehend this. They were all wonderful, such wonderful people. My heart is in pieces. And Joshua McCarroll, another photojournalist at the Gazette, says, I want to thank the first responders for all their work today and the many journalists who came to cover our tragedy with empathy and respect. I can't talk about those we've lost yet. The loss is unimaginable. The Capital newspaper does plan to publish tomorrow as many of their surviving reporters and photographers covered today's tragedy. Stay with WJZ for the latest on the shooting at the Capital Gazette in Annapolis. We will continue to update the investigation as it unfolds. And we'll be right back.